What I'm finding now is that normally I expect to find the usual, let's see how you stand up, when you first meet your new pupil, see how you stand up, and they do the old, tweaking themselves out of the chair. But what I'm finding now is that I get a lot of kind of overachieving women, and their use in themselves is pretty good, actually. Even somebody who feels they're carrying a lot of trauma, their use getting in and out of the chair is fairly good. Yeah. It's not stuck, or it's not that lumpen feeling that you have.
Yeah.
But as I talk to them, and as we get to know one another over lessons, I always say, come for at least 6, go on, give it a good go.
Yeah.
They start to point at things like, oh, my life, my job, my family, and they're trying to achieve so much that, you see this low-level stress going on, and they start to make the conscious realizations that, maybe I need to look at my load, in my life. And those things seem to come up more often now. And of course, I try very hard. I always remember what you say, we're not therapists in that sense. I try not to get involved, but I say, isn't that interesting? How does that make you feel about your life? And, how do you... I remember you saying that you had a pupil who made a really huge, big life development, and you were like, whoa, that was nothing to do with me.
Yes, she did.
But she
said, thank you so much for helping me to decide, decide to change my job, or I think it was, or something rather.
Move across the country or something.
And I thought, I didn't.
Don't blame me. What happens, do you think?
In that case, she was talking about it. I mean, I remember she was on the table. We were doing table work, and she was talking about this problem. Mm. And all I did was let her talk, because it's not my business to advise, or I'm not a counsellor, I'm not a therapist in that sense of the word, or anything. I just moved around, and I kept coming back to her head and neck, and looking after myself and all the rest of it. And my memory is that in that particular lesson, the table work was quite extended, rather longer than I would usually spend. Because she was talking, and she wanted to talk, and so I just let her talk and got on with what I was doing, and perhaps occasionally chipping in to say, now just ask for your neck
while you're talking
to come to quiet, or to quieten around your neck and shoulders, etc. and directions, and then let her carry on. Yes, and then I got this email saying, thank you so much for helping me make this huge decision. I'm going to go and accept this job, and unfortunately it's down in Bristol, I think it was. Can you recommend a teacher down there?
Wow.
So you don't, I mean, in that particular instance, I got to find out. I got to recognize what had happened for her.
Yeah.
So you are, whatever it is you're working with, you are working with a whole person. Q. Important Alexander principle.
Yes.
Psychophysical unity.
Yes.
And I would, go on to say, maybe we could say psychophysical, emotional, environmental.
Yeah, the whole package.
Unity.
I distinctly remember on the training, it wasn't with you, but with your son, Ben, who also taught with us. And I came in full of my usual nonsense that I was undergoing that visits me in a very, it's work related, but it's very emotionally based. And I came in full of fury. And I said to Ben, I didn't tell him anything that was what was going on, but I said, do you think that if you just work, just working in the chair will resolve this kind of massive thunderstorm that's going on in my head? Yeah. And he said, well, I don't know, let's find out. And you know what? It did. And I remember saying the same thing to you as well. I was always full of something. My brain works 100 miles an hour. And it just, if you remember where you are and remember your seat on the chair and your neck at the other end and all that, then your nervous system will calm down. It won't be in that sympathetic, startled, aggravated state trying to fight off, saber-toothed tigers and everything, the modern day equivalent. Yeah. And it is incredible. And it takes sometimes a leap of faith for people. They often come here and they say, but I need a therapist, a counsellor as well. And often, you say, yes, you probably need to talk those things through. But I often think that if they just stick with this, that if it's right for them, that those things will kind of calm down, because your brain really works against you sometimes in times of stress, doesn't it? Yeah. Although I also remember you saying some stimuli are just too big to inhibit against, and you have to acknowledge too strong. Yeah. You just have to say, oh well, here I go.
Yes, exactly.
Trust the process.
Yeah.
And do you think the discharge of you get the stimulus, the reaction, we do not discharge the cycle? I remember talking about that as well. That as grown-ups, we feel we have to behave ourselves and hold it all in, and we don't do that whole shaking off or crying or that kids do or animals do.
Yes.
Is it stuck?
Absolutely an important part of it, I think, to recognise what we've learnt to suppress because of social norms, being at school, not being able to let it all out. That will also have its effect on our use in the Alexander sense. So that's where the lessons themselves can help to come to some recognition of that.
Because we talk a lot about trauma-informed work these days, and at the AT Congress last year there was a whole day about trauma, and we do hold that there are lots of people who hold a lot of trauma, and I haven't quite come to grips with it myself, but I do know that there are people who overreact. I know some people in particular, because they're so conditioned to expect bad things to happen. You can say something like, do you want a cup of tea? And they will react as if you've just threatened to hit them over the head with a hammer. It's really, and is that, in the modern parlance, they're talking about dysregulated nervous systems. How would you express that from your perspective?
Well, there's a whole range of different views and different approaches, different knowledge about that kind of thing, about whatever you might call non-neurotypical and all of this. And again, you can't go into that. It is not our job as Alexander teachers to try to meddle with all of that, except that you do have to. There was a very famous American hypnotherapist called, I think, Milton, or was that?
Oh yes, yes, I know the guy.
And he said, he had this wonderful statement: the meaning of your communication lies in the response you get.
Mm-hmm.
Now, put simply, what does that mean? If somebody hasn't understood what you've just said, there's no point in saying it again louder.
Yeah. Yes.
Like an Englishman
Yeah.
trying to make himself understood in France or wherever.
Yeah.
You've got to change what you're doing. You've got to find another way round by experiment, by your presence, your communication, and so on.
Yeah.
And it may be that the notion, let your neck be free, is too strong a stimulus.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, I'm just taking a random example.
That's true. And people go, oh my God, yeah, but my neck, which part of my neck? Oh my God, I've got that thing in my neck. Oh my God, but I've got a neck problem.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, I've heard all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which brings us to the next big Alexander principle, which is faulty or imperfect sensory appreciation. Now, what Alexander talks about, if you read the words carefully, he says that if you continue with the work and stick to principle, there may be a gradually improving standard of sensory appreciation. And I think the important word there is gradually.
And maybe.
And maybe. And I'm perfectly certain for myself that my sensory appreciation is far from perfect. It's a bit better than it was.
Yes. Still working on it.
But that is an ongoing process.
Yes.
And you always have to say to yourself, I might not be getting this quite right.
Yes. I think it's always safest to assume you're not, is it? I would say yes.
Yes. I vividly remember when Dick and Elizabeth closed their training course in Oxford, there were a couple of people left over who still had maybe it was a year to go or something like this. And they knew that the course was going to close and everything. So it wasn't a surprise to anybody. Now, those two people came and did their last bit with us. And so I thought only right that when they qualified and we had a little graduation ceremony, we should ask Elizabeth. And ask Elizabeth, because Dick had passed away, to come and give them their certificates. And I was standing next to Elizabeth while she was, and I passed her the envelope with the certificate in, and she gave it, and she leaned over to them and she said, "Please help your pupils not to be afraid to be wrong." And that was overheard advice, which I've always kept at the back of my brain.
I mean, that's what you always taught us, as soon as you think you're right, throw it away and start again.
Yes.
Because probably not.
But equally, you have to be very careful that you, as the teacher, are not in some subtle kind of way being critical.
I must tell you, I'm very excited, but not unduly, about. I've told everybody. Robert Fripp, the guitarist, was the keynote speaker, one of the keynote speakers at the Dublin Congress. Do you know Robert Fripp? From
You told me.
I've told him.
Yeah.
I know. I told everybody. Anyway, I have recently been to his guitarcraft course in Italy, where we had to teach. There were a team of about 8 of us teachers, and we taught about 100 guitarists. So many of them knew about the techniques. Some of the teachers had discovered the technique through the guitarcraft course.
Wow.
And if you see Robert Fripp playing, I mean, he is the epitome of, undue muscular tension. He's just very economical with his movements. But one of the concerns with one of my, there were 4 of us who were very new to it, was this idea that they play in a big circle and the teachers go around the outside and put their hands on the people as they're playing with no prior explanation. And this is the way it has always happened since Frank Sheldon, who was the first teacher, American chap, back in the 80s. And the idea was that they have the experience first of because they're waiting to play, they're waiting to play their notes, they're all very tense. You get this kind of warm, supportive feeling, just the hands. There's no explanation, so they're not expecting it. But most people report being very comforted by it. Initially a bit like, "Ooh, who's that?" But not startled, not completely traumatized. But some of my colleagues said, well, it could be taken as correcting or judgment, or you're not playing right. Let me mold you into a better pattern. So
if you are sticking to principle and your primary objective in putting your hands on somebody is to look after your own use, and you see, when you put your hands on someone, the process of looking after yourself does mean that you're keeping your distance, because your back is going away from your hands.
Yeah.
You're not going in on the person.
Yeah.
So, in theory, it shouldn't have that sense of, I'm being corrected, or I'm being shown that I've got it wrong, or something like that. But then on the other hand, we were talking about non-neurotypical people. If you, unbeknown to you, were putting your hands on someone who was on the autistic spectrum, ADHD, whatever, if that person is quite affected by that, they may well have an unrecognized dislike of being touched.
Yes.
So, for example, if that happened to be the case, there would be something of that going on. And so, yes, it's a bit of a, I suppose, hoping for the best, that kind of situation.
Yeah, it was a debate for sure. I mean, I think, they said, oh, well, we'll just say, as you play, as you're new to this circle, somebody will come round and put their hands, but it's not, it's just as a support. But I thought, well, if you're sitting there then you're waiting for someone to come and put their hands on you, so you can't win.
Well, and then from a musical instrumental point of view, you're also up against the difficulty that your playing habits are so ingrained by constant repetition.
Yes.
that probably the best thing you can do is put the blessed thing back in its case.
Yes. Yeah, there were some right examples there.
And do a bit of,
Yeah,
standing up, sitting down, going into monkey
That's
or
it.
whatever it is.
we did a few guided line downs, and we had the tables laid out very central to the house, so people would say, "Oh, what's going on there?
Yes.
Oh, can I have a go? Oh, that's nice." And so they would come to us, and they would just lie down and go, "Please do your magic." But it was so great to be able to link it with the playing. It's such
Sure.
an intense
Yes, sure.
musical experience,
Yeah.
and also the immense emotional processing that we were all going through, teachers and participants alike.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Robert himself, he'd had a heart attack the last time he was there. So he was every day thinking, "Thank goodness I've woken up again." So yeah, it's just interesting. And the other thing that was nice was that people could just come and have the experience or have a turn without having to book them in or take their money or chase them in any way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well, if it acts as a sort of taster session and people say, "I want more," then, well, job done.
can't argue. Yeah. How do you use the technique when you teach your violin pupils? Does it come out overtly, or do you just sneak it in? Or
I look after myself.
That's me told.
And I observe. I don't put my hands on anyone for a multitude of reasons.
Yes. Yeah.
Usually the parent is there, but nevertheless, I
So
don't,
children. Yes, absolutely.
because that's not what I'm being asked to do.
Yes. Yeah.
But I do speak.
Mm.
I try to choose the words that I use, and I try to be careful with myself, look after myself when I demonstrate.
Right.
You do it like this or whatever.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So
Yeah.
they see by your example.
And I think with young children, they do pick up those messages more than adults do.
Yes. Yeah.
And it can have some kind of an effect. And also, there's a question, particularly with children, about, are they enjoying it?
Yes.
Are they having fun?
Yes.
And if it's not fun,
It's not gonna
and
work.
if you're being told that you're wrong
Yes.
all the time, like any of the rest of us,
Yes.
that's going to have an effect
Yes.
on their use
Yeah.
and on their being.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.